In the years following Jesus Christ's crucifixion and resurrection, his apostles undertook an extraordinary mission, one that would change the course of history forever. Their task was to spread the message of Christianity far beyond Jerusalem, to the ends of the known world. They were a small group of men, often hunted, persecuted, and misunderstood, yet their impact would shape civilizations for millennia to come. Among them, Peter and Paul stood out as key figures in this momentous journey, leading the way in establishing Christian communities across the vast Roman Empire. But how did these simple, humble men carry the teachings of Christ into hostile lands? What challenges did they face, and how did their efforts lead to the creation of the earliest churches? This is the remarkable story of faith, courage, and resilience, of how Christianity, born in a small corner of the Roman Empire, blossomed into a global faith. The beginning. A mission. Born in Jerusalem. After Jesus' ascension, the apostles found themselves in a fragile position. In Jerusalem, where Christianity had its roots, the early believers were a small and persecuted group, viewed as a dangerous sect by the religious authorities. The Jewish Sanhedrin and Roman officials alike were intent on suppressing this new movement. Yet, the apostles were unwavering in their mission. They were charged with the Great Commission, "Go and make disciples of all nations." Matthew 28:19. The book of Acts describes how the apostles, led initially by Peter, preached boldly in Jerusalem, converting thousands. However, the persecution intensified, especially after the martyrdom of Stephen, the first Christian to die for his faith. This event marked a turning point. As the persecution in Jerusalem grew fiercer, many Christians were scattered across the region. Rather than stifle the movement, this dispersion only served to spread the gospel further. Peter and Paul, the two pillars of the early church, would soon embark on separate journeys, each critical to the expansion of Christianity beyond the borders of Jerusalem. Peter, the rock upon which the church was built. Peter, one of Jesus' closest disciples, was entrusted with a special role in the Christian mission. Jesus referred to Peter as the rock upon which he would build his church, Matthew 16:18. Peter's leadership in the early Christian community was evident as he led the believers in Jerusalem, but his mission would extend far beyond the city's walls. Peter's journey took him first to Samaria and Joppa, where he continued to preach the gospel. His most significant moment came when he received a vision that would transform Christianity forever. In this vision, Peter saw a large sheet filled with all kinds of animals, both clean and unclean. He heard a voice instructing him to kill and eat. When Peter resisted, saying he had never eaten anything impure, the voice replied, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." Acts 10:15. This vision was a divine sign, indicating that the message of Christianity was not just for the Jews but for all people, including Gentiles. Shortly afterward, Peter was called to the house of Cornelius, a Roman centurion and a Gentile. There, Peter preached the gospel, and Cornelius and his household became the first Gentile converts to Christianity. This event marked a significant shift in the early church, as it began to open its doors to non-Jews. Peter's later travels took him to Antioch, a major center of early Christianity, and eventually to Rome, the heart of the Roman Empire. It was in Rome that Peter met his martyrdom. According to tradition, he was crucified upside down, feeling unworthy to die in the same manner as his Lord. Though his earthly life ended in suffering, his legacy as the rock of the church lived on. Peter's efforts laid the foundation for what would become the Roman Catholic Church, with Rome as its spiritual center. Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles. While Peter was instrumental in spreading Christianity among the Jews, it was Paul, originally known as Saul of Tarsus, who would take the gospel to the Gentiles on a grand scale. Paul's journey is one of the most dramatic transformations in Christian history. Once a zealous persecutor of Christians, Paul's life changed forever on the road to Damascus when he encountered the risen Christ. Blinded by a divine light, Paul heard the voice of Jesus asking, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" Acts 9:4. This encounter not only restored Paul's sight, but gave him a new mission, to spread the message of Christ to the Gentile world. Paul's missionary journeys are legendary. Over the course of 3 main journeys, Paul traveled thousands of miles, traversing the lands of modern-day Turkey, Greece, and Italy. He visited major cities such as Ephesus, Corinth, Philippi, and Thessalonica, where he established Christian communities and preached the gospel. Paul's approach was different from Peter's in many ways. He was highly educated, well-versed in the Hebrew scriptures and Greek philosophy, and possessed Roman citizenship, which gave him unique privileges. Paul often engaged in intellectual debates with Jewish scholars and Greek philosophers, using his knowledge to connect with both Jewish and Gentile audiences. Despite his success, Paul faced immense challenges. He was beaten, imprisoned, shipwrecked, and stoned, yet he never wavered in his mission. His letters to the early Christian communities, such as those in Corinth, Galatia, and Rome, form a significant portion of the New Testament. These epistles offer profound theological insights and practical advice on living a Christian life, many of which are still foundational to Christian teaching today. Paul's journey ended in Rome, where he was imprisoned for preaching the gospel. Like Peter, Paul was martyred in Rome, likely beheaded under the reign of Emperor Nero. His legacy, however, continued to shape the future of Christianity. Paul's missionary efforts and writings played a key role in spreading Christianity throughout the Roman Empire and establishing it as a faith for all people, Jew and Gentile alike. The establishment of early Christian communities. One of the most remarkable aspects of the apostles' journeys was their ability to establish lasting Christian communities in the cities they visited. These early churches were not just places of worship, they were close-knit communities that supported each other spiritually and materially. In many cities, Christians were a small and often persecuted minority. They faced opposition from both Jewish and Roman authorities, and their gatherings were often held in secret. Despite these challenges, the early Christian communities thrived. Their strength came from their sense of unity, faith, and love for one another. They shared their possessions, cared for the poor, and provided for widows and orphans, practices that reflected the teachings of Jesus. The Apostle Paul's letters to these communities reveal the challenges they faced, from internal divisions to external threats. Yet these letters also show the deep bond that existed between the apostles and the believers they had nurtured. Paul often referred to the believers as his children in the faith, and his letters were filled with expressions of love, encouragement, and hope. The legacy of the apostles' journey. The apostles' journey to spread Christianity beyond Jerusalem was filled with incredible hardships, but it was also marked by profound faith and resilience. The early Christian communities they established laid the foundation for what would become a global faith. Through their efforts, the message of Christ spread from a small group of followers in Jerusalem to the farthest reaches of the Roman Empire and beyond. Today, the legacy of the apostles continues to shape the Christian faith. The churches they established, the letters they wrote, and the lives they touched are still remembered and celebrated. Peter and Paul, in particular, are revered as pillars of the Christian faith, and their journeys serve as an enduring testament to the power of faith, courage, and the transformative message of Jesus Christ. In the end, the apostles' journey was not just a physical one. It was a journey of the heart, a journey that carried the light of Christ to a world in need of hope, love, and salvation. Their legacy is a reminder that no matter the challenges we face, faith can move mountains and change the course of history.